This video shows the execution of the scheduled categories and their logs and data. The categories are executed if they are enabled, otherwise they are not, which is why you see me enabling a second category in order to appear in the list of categories executing. The error message we see was because I have a global variable that specifies the row in the data grid I use to display the information every time we select a node on the left side, and I try to use that variable also when I am dealing with rows displaying categories currently executing. Although I could have cut the errors or make a video after I would have been fixing all these errors, I decided to keep the errors and how I address them in the video in order to also show that, as I was saying in my previous posts, I am copying pasting code rather than writing it. I'm just taking code from a place where I know I have something similar and reuse it. The clock you see while checking the execution log for scheduled categories was added only to give me a visual aid of when the categories are executing compared to their schedule, and also compared, if you will stay till the end of this video, to the wait for delay values I have for the scripts I am executing. I changed the schedule for a category in order to test that also, and I tried to retrieve the data and logs for these executions only to realize that I cannot see the latest data. If you watch, you will see it was because I created the date-time slider by copying the date-time slider control I had and used in the query store control, but I had to create a new one in order to add cancellation of the query if user wants. For the audit control, I am saving the data in the database, and when I am retrieving, I have to retrieve it without converting the date to UTC. To be honest, I don't know why for Query Store I created that slider and used that conversion for the datetime. Anyway, once the datetime retrieved from the database by the mean of min and max is not converted, we are able to see the latest executions too, and we can select them. If you look to the query I am using to retrieve data from audit category table joined with the historical table, the results set returned, and the size of the scroll, you would see that something is not right. I am returning more rows because the query I was using was missing another filter predicate which was added after this video, and that predicate was to filter the results set and return audit items where their start date is bigger or equal with the audit category start date, and their end date smaller or equal than audit category end date. As mentioned in previous posts, there is no info about the duration the scripts took to execute for each instance stored in a column in these tables, but the information is in the log generated, which is why you will see me clicking the Retrieve Duration button in order to see how long it took. For the remaining of the video, you will see me doing some tests after fixing some of the bugs we found during the presentation and the attempt of enabling another category and waiting for it to be executed. For that category, I ran into all sorts of issues which are solved now. Among the issues was the fact that I was never checking before executing the category if it has enabled audit items. The check was done later in the code. Another thing was the messages in the execution log in case we decide to cancel a manually launched category. What I'm trying to say is that the code currently in place needs to be fine-tuned in order to cover all scenarios. These tests requires time and modifications in multiple places because the method doing the work started as a 10 lines of code method, which would have executed a single category with a single audit item to executing multiple categories with multiple audit items in them. This method was not taking any parameters and wouldn't save anything in the DB and so on. Those being said, just bear with me throughout this fine-tuning process, which will happen while I discover them as it happened today during this presentation. For the next post, I am thinking to add some charts for the data we have in the tables we already have. Something like how many categories, how many audit items in each, how many enabled, disabled, duration of each category, and so on.